Welcome, everybody, and we're the Beattys. Just another day at the office, and today we're catching up on some of our parachutes, tying a few bodies ahead, and also some completed flies. I think Gretchen is working right now on some atoms, and we'll be brainstorming some things that we can share with all of you in tomorrow's Fly Tying Friday. I'm Al Beatty, and Gretchen's over there hard at work on one of her fly patterns, and I'm going to switch over to the split screen so you can see that, yep, she's actually over there working, and I'm going to move over to the vise and get to doing what I have going here. I'm tying number 16 bodies right now, and you're working on some 14s, aren't you, Gretchen?
Yes, I'm finishing some 14s up. I'm just
yeah, tell them what you're doing while I get myself
about
organized.
to finish a half a dozen, and then I'll probably start working on Al's 16s that he's going to tie. I have quite a few 14s done, and we don't have any 16s at all. And what we do is this is a mixed brown and grizzly hackle. So I bare quite a bit of stem so that I can bare stem clear up to the where I want to start the hackle on the post. So I set it in there. Whoops, that one needs to be pulled down. There we go. Tie it on. I think I would like to have just a little bit more dubbing on that one. So I'm just going to take a tiny, tiny pinch of dubbing. And put it on. There, that's better. I kind of figured it wasn't looking real good from the back. Then I wind up to the top. Then I'll catch these hackles. Whoop. There we go. Wind clear up to the top. Back down. Now I'll just wrap my hackle around the post. Well, I'm fumbling around a little bit over here.
I'm getting ready to tie on the wing. We're on these because we're getting into the smaller sizes. We've switched from using calf tail hair to calf body hair. But I still use the same process for tying on the wings. I tie them on a little bit long because I never can get them measured right. And just kind of lash them in place with a couple of snug but not real tight turns. And I have a spare hook in my clips, and I'll just hold that hook up so I can adjust the length of the wing so it's equal to the length of the hook shank. And that looks like it's pretty close. Then I'll just roll that wing up on top and bind it in place. One of the things I have trouble with is accidentally cutting the thread when I trim off the waist on these smaller flies. I don't have a problem on the bigger, but the smaller I do. So I want you to notice that I wrap my thread forward, and now I'm going to unwrap it back to where I was before I did the trim, and I'll go ahead and wrap over the waist end there. I guess I could have just wrapped it in place, but there's no reason to add extra wraps of thread if we don't need them. And I'm going to wrap a thread down in front of the wings. And now I'll turn the wings upside down. I want to wrap up that post, and I've got bad shoulders, so I wrap up the post by going down, and that saves on the wear and tear on shoulders that are having trouble. I want you to notice that I wrap to the top of the post, and then I pull it straight up, and I anchor it in place with a downward pull. It's kind of like adding rebar to concrete. And I'll do it again. That's 2 strands of rebar. I'll just kind of bind that in place and go ahead and tie that off. And then it will go on to Gretchen's area where she'll finish it a little bit later.
Shoot, I forgot I had a...
Would you lose something there, dear?
Well, I have to go get some hackle, and I forgot I had my microphone on, and I started to take off the microphone.
Yeah, you don't want to run off. You'll be dragging the camera along with you. Okay, I'll just keep going here while you do that. One of the things that we need to talk about putting on tails that are hackle fiber tails. We always,
Now, the ones that you're doing, is that going to be mixed brown and white
no,
tail?
no, the tails are going to be all grizzly, just like the ones you've got, so that you can,
I'll add some brown.
we could add to them, or we can just do whatever, you know.
I'll add to them like I was doing
Yeah,
before.
just have to do that. Yeah, for sure. All right, now
Oh, I've got a phone call.
okay, well, head out and do the opposite. I'll catch you in a minute here. What I'm doing is adding the tail and pull the fibers out to the side, like you see here. Then I'll grab the ends, and it's very important to strip the feather away from the fibers, not the other way around. You'll misalign the fibers almost every time. And I want the tail to be about as long as the hook. I'll set that in place, tie it down, and I want you to notice that I'm tying it on bare shank. We only, let's see, hackle fiber tails are the only ones that we put on a bare shank. In fact, while Gretchen's out in the office talking to a customer that just called us, let me go to a full frame shot here so you can see that a little bit better. And the reason that we do it on the bare shank, or the bare shank of the hook, is because it lays straight in line with the shank. And if there's there's a dimension of the thread on the shank, you have the tendency of the fibers, because they're so hard and slick, to slip off of the thread dam or thread base under them, and they'll end up tilting downhill like that. And we don't want that. We want them to stick straight out. And at least on the flies that we tie, that's the way we do them. Now, whether you want your flies that way or not, that's up to you. Anyway, I trim off the waist, and now I'm going to go over here to my calf body hair. And I'll hold this up so you can see it. It's just a calf body hair. And I'm just cutting out the fibers, cleaning out the waist. You know, normal stuff that anybody would do for tying a calf body hair fly. One of the things about the calf body hair, it's a little bit better on these small flies because you don't have to put up with the curly cue of the feather tips. And just like all the others, I have to get rid of this waist right here. And you're back on.
I'm back.
You're gonna put your mic on, huh?
Happy birthday wish from somebody.
Oh, okay, great. Well,
So
yeah.
you have some bodies for me?
Yeah, I will here in a sec. Just a second.
Okay.
Let's get back
No
to this.
hurry.
Back to the split screen. There we go.
I'll get rid of
And
these.
here's a couple of bodies for you.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm going to clean out the waist out of the.
I'll put this back over here so you can.
Okay, good. Thanks. I'll just get rid of that waist. Now I rapidly run my finger up and down through the waist to get rid of the fibers. And by going up and down, I'm not causing more static electricity. That's something we do not want. And we get a lot of here in the Rocky Mountain West, where it's fairly dry and cold. In fact, today it's well, when we got up, it was about I don't know, 8 or 9 degrees. It was
Well, I'll tell you what it is now.
cold. Should be
It's up to 15.
Oh,
Woohoo!
yeah, we're in a heat wave. All right, now I'm going to pull out those fibers for the wing and get that wing tied on. Tie it on long. We're going to measure it for length.
I have a little box here of just a whole bunch of hackles. So I'm, let's see if you can see. So I'm just, that's sized. It's my size 16s. Okay. Go ahead, dear.
Yeah, I'll just wrap my thread forward like I did there so I can make the trim. In fact, I missed one of the fibers. And then I unwind it and continue on my journey to cover over those waste fibers. Get a tapered body. So Gretchen's got something to work with when she gets it in.
I'm using gray thread since the body's going to be, whoa, I need to tighten my vise a little bit. Here we go. Since the body's going to be dubbed with our soft touch dubbing in gray.
Oh, you're using soft touch on those?
Yeah, I'm using
All right,
soft
good.
touch.
Yeah, that's a really good dubbing that we manufacture for use with our dubbing wax.
Then I've got a larger hackle here, as you can see, and that's what I'll take. Oh, just a few fibers off of here to add to the tail material. There. So now the tail has got to, you really can't see that so
So
much.
you added the brown to the tail?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to take a little break here. My eyes are watering pretty bad. One of the things that happens when it's cold and dry around here, my eye doctor says, your eyes water because they're dry. Don't make any sense to me, but it sure makes a difference when I use eye drops. I'm going to put some eye drops in right now, and you can go back to what you're doing there, dear.
Well, I'm going to apply some wax to my thread. And just a little bit of dubbing. I leave the dubbing in the package and then just barely touch it. Twist clockwise. As you can see, that's really fine.
That's a lot better. And I may as well have a drink of coffee while you're working away there.
Okay, now I will tie on my 2 hackles while I continue to dub.
Okay, and over on my side, again, I'm going to be tying the tail out of hackle fibers and attaching it to the bare stem of the shank. Not the bare stem, the bare shank itself, not the bare stem. And I want it to be just about as long as the hook. Anchored in place, let the thread torque roll those fibers up on top from the side. Trim off the waist, advance forward to the point where I'll be getting some calf body hairs now. And all that fuzz and stuff right here has to go away. And you already know that I'm just going to rapidly run my finger up and down through the waist ends there. So I'm going to move away from the camera and over the waistband. What do you got going there while I'm messing around over here?
Tying this hackle off on the post. I trimmed it and then I took a couple more wraps, and now I'm going to use my half hitch tool to come up from underneath, and I do a half hitch and then 2 wraps like that. Makes a whip finish. I'll do that a couple times. Oops, I got that a little. If you get it too tight, it doesn't slip off right. So I have to. And then I take my bodkin, a little, well, I guess I don't have to use my bodkin. This has got to take a couple of drops of glue right on the post and let it run down through the hackle into the thread. And that's a completed fly.
And I've just measured my wing and pulled it to the length I wanted it to be. And now I'm going to roll up on top of the, and I didn't do what I said I was going to do, and I ended up cutting thread. So I'm just going to have to let Gretchen carry the verbiage right now.
Well, I'm right back to my second fly now, just starting right back again with the hackle. It's kind of boring, actually, just over and over. But, you know, I don't like to tie much less than about a dozen flies at a time, because it just, once you start doing production tying, doing anything less than a dozen is not what you like to do.
Yeah, somebody asked me to tie an order for them. Would you tie me one of these and one of those? And And I respectfully decline the order. I get frustrated if I'm not tying 10 dozen. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but that's just the way it is.
Well, I think you tie better flies when you tie quite a few of them because you kind
Well,
of
you
get
you
into the
a groove
groove.
on them.
You- the proportions become just second nature. You've got all your materials in front of you. The thing that I had to learn on these is just very little dubbing. Look at that. There's just a tiny bit of dubbing because you don't want a big, heavy body on these. And then the other thing I had to learn was to twist clockwise because I wrap clockwise. And if I were to twist counterclockwise, then as I wrap it would untwist it, so to speak, and make a sloppy looking body. So there's kind of a nice thin
That's kind of
body.
a tip right there that she gave you. If your dubbing is constantly coming loose on you as you're wrapping it, take a look at the direction you're twisting it on the thread in relation to the direction you're going around the hook and see if that gives you any clues. And if you don't have that problem, then you're probably twisting and wrapping in the same direction.
And because I wrapped in the wrong direction for so long, I really have to concentrate twisting my dubbing now because I have a tendency to want to twist the wrong direction. It's really frustrating. I tied thousands of flies the wrong direction and struggled with my.
Well, we did it for years and years and years that way. We both still, I have to every time now, instead of, I have to think as I start to twist the dubbing on the thread because I did it backwards for at least 40 years.
Yeah.
And can't tell you how many flies I tied where I'd twist, make a couple of wraps, and then I have to twist it again. And I just thought that's the way it was and didn't know any different until my good friend Wayne Llewellyn pointed out to me what was going wrong.
Was it Wayne that did that?
I'm pretty sure it was. It was either Wayne or Marvin Nolte. I can't remember which, but I'm pretty sure it was Wayne. Wayne is very detailed in that kind of a respect. Okay, I've got me a bundle of hair. I'll just slip off
So while
camera
we're
here for a minute.
doing this, do we need to talk about what we're going to do tonight?
Yeah, tomorrow night, actually, but yeah.
Or tomorrow night? Yeah, you're right.
Well, one of the things that I think we'd like to do, well, okay, the whole theme of tomorrow night for you all listening in is going to be making do with what's left over. And that's something that a commercial fly tire has a lot of, is leftover stuff. Making do is what we call it. And as an example, one of the things that we're going to do, and I've already written it down, is so you tie a whole bunch of CDC flies for a customer and you have no CDC feathers left. Well, did you know you can make your own CDC?
I need some more bodies.
Okay. Did you know you could make your own CDC by taking kiwi camp dry and hosing down either marabou or the chickaboo from soft tackle chickaboo and make a very good substitute? Well, we're going to show you how to do that tomorrow. That's one of the things that's on our list. And
one of the big things, and of course, is the Wonder Wing too, taking those leftover big feathers that we never used to use and make them into Wonder Wings.
Yeah, the Wonder Wing is a result of learning about that from some fellows in Europe in the early 90s and then bringing it into our own tying. And at the time we started tying the Wonder Wings, we had like, I'll just pull a number out of the sky. Let's say about 800 capes that had all the 12, 14, 16, and 18 feathers pulled out of them. There they are, all the big feathers left over. And what do you do with them? Well, we didn't know, but I hated to throw them away. So anyway, after learning about the Wonder Wing, we knew what to do with them. And it took us about 4 years. We started tying them commercial. And those 800 capes disappeared. And I'm saying 800. That's a number I'm pulling out of the sky.
Just FYI, I just tied this tail on and I don't like the way it looks. So I'm just going to back up and do that over again in case people wonder what's going on over here.
Yeah, one of the things about production tying is knowing when you have to back off and do over. And believe me, just because we're professional tiers does not mean that we don't have to back off and do over.
Well, one of the things I just discovered is this big feather that I'm taking the tailing fibers off of is, well, it's shorter on one side than the other. And so I took some off of one side and they just were a little short. So as a consequence, they ended up flaring and.
Oh, you got into the webby end there part, huh?
And no, it wasn't so much that, it was that because they were short, I tied them on so close to the bend that I couldn't do soft wraps. So I was doing harder wraps and it caused it to flare. So
one of the things you mentioned earlier, and I forgot to write down, didn't you talk about longitudinal dubbing for tomorrow night?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, let me get that written down before I forget it.
I've got a fly right now, so I could just kind of demonstrate that real quick.
Yeah, and then you can pull it off and just put the regular dubbing on.
Yeah.
Do that for them.
Yeah.
And let me get it written down.
I'm going to take just a piece of gray yarn, and it's red heart yarn. And you just want to take it apart, and so you just have a single strand of it. You can tie a lot of flies with this, I'll tell you. It's not wanting to come apart, so I think I'll cut it off there because that's probably plenty. So I got a single strand here now. And so now I'm able to take those fibers and kind of make them go on, not twisted so much. So I don't know how good this is going to show up. Can we do a tied up on this camera?
No.
So maybe I should, well, let's see here. I'll just do it. So I kind of twist it so the fibers are straight.
Yeah, you got to line the fibers up.
Line the fibers up, and then you just wrap it.
By the way, the longitudinal dubbing is named after a piece of telephone equipment.
There we go.
That we worked on back in the day when we were in corporate America working for the phone company.
So if I were to hold this over here, is there any way we could do a close-up on it?
Just a minute. Let me.
You can just hold this there.
That won't work.
That won't work.
No, let me just get this out of the vise and I'll put yours in the vise.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold it.
Okay, now let's do a tight shot on it.
And there, that shows it.
Yeah, there you go. That looks good, Gretch. All right, you want to grab that?
Yeah, got it.
All right. Oh, okay.
There.
Let me get my partially completed body back in the vise.
Okay, I got it back over here. And I'm just gonna now unwrap that.
Now I'm gonna.
You know, interestingly enough, you can get some pretty good yarn at the Goodwill store lots of times if you just kind of keep your eye open. There'll be partial skeins of yarn because people, when they've made a quilt or whatever, what be it? Crochet or embroidery or whatever, they'll have partial skeins left. And so sometimes they'll just take that to the Goodwill. I didn't get all of that off, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do a little dubbing right over the top of it.
Sure.
Got most of it off. Somehow it's not always easy to unwind things. It just
Little
doesn't.
fibers get tangled around each other.
Yeah.
Now I'll apply some pressure and I'll take that hair that was on the side of the hook and thread torque will position it right back up on top. And what I did last time and had to rethread my bobbin is I just left that hanging there, but I'm going to wrap forward a ways, trim off the waist. And then unwrap and continue wrapping towards the back, capturing the last of the waist ends of the wing.
Now you said you made a list.
Yeah, I've got a list here of some things.
So are we going to take turns doing them, or are we just going to have one tire tonight, or what?
No,
Or
no,
tomorrow night?
night we're going to have us both.
Okay.
And all right, there we go. Let's see. We'll just kind of review with you a couple of the things that.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to know what what you expect me to do tomorrow night.
Oh, you're such a pro.
Or you could surprise me, I guess.
I guess I could. Okay, poly wings, laying them across the shank and rounding the ends a little bit.
Huh? Say that again.
Poly wings, just lay them across the shank, crisscross them, and stand them up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Instead of adding more bulk, that you can make a really.
Yep.
Let's see. We need to find some good substitutes to replace jungle cock, because jungle cock is getting really hard to find. And
so now when we want to replace it, are we looking for something with an eye, or is there some of that chicken stuff that we could just
some of the chicken stuff, there's some feathers that are on a rooster pheasant that might be appropriate. We just have to start looking, and we'll come up with something to use as a substitute, not a substitute for jungle cock, but to use
in place of.
Yeah, because it's almost impossible to make things look like jungle cock. I mean, it's
okay.
And let's see, there's a couple of other things I've written down. We talked about doing some Rangeley stuff in sections, and whether we do that tomorrow or we do it next week, we'll see. One of the things that we do sometimes is mixing hackle fiber tails with hair tails, especially if you've got some weak hackle like grizzly and you want brown, you can take squirrel and mix it. And
okay.
Let's see. Did I do the Kiwi Camp Drive for CDC feathers?
Yeah.
Okay. We can trim quill rings. I know that's a sacrilege thing for most quill wing tires, but when you got to do what you got to do because that's what you have and you're going fishing, and that's what we'll be doing tomorrow night. And it is possible to do and make a pretty nice looking fly by trimming the quill wings when you don't have enough of one side or the other. But we'll get into that more tomorrow.
Something I was.
We probably should have a few more on our list, but
there was something I was thinking of, and it just went out the other side.
I just love it when it disappears like that.
It was pretty clever too.
Then we need to get that on the list because I'll never remember.
Well, I can't remember it now. Already, I forgot it. Let's see.
As soon as it comes to you, let me know, and then we'll get it down.
Oh, I know. One of the things I was talking about is using chickaboo in place of marabou.
Yes, we're going to have some chickaboo that we're going to be turning into CDC, so we may as well be replacing as well. Let me get that on the list right now. Looks like I'm going to have to turn over the page.
And we use In addition to using poly for things, we sometimes use Antron, like on the Prince nymph that we use the guides prints.
Oh, that's a good idea. Let me get that down too.
Yeah.
Material sub like guides prints. Wing and tails. Yeah, that's a good one. In fact, that one has become such a good fly that we've put it in a couple of our books, and it's getting a pretty good following of people. It just happens to seem to work better in off-color water conditions that you have sometimes in the spring. When you'll have in the spring, and it works better than the standard Prince nymph. And you'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out what we're talking about. All right, I'm getting ready to add a wing. Get over the waste bin. I'm off camera if you need to talk about something, Gretch.
Oh, I'm thinking about material substitution. It's kind of on my mind. Well, one of the things is the pheasant legs. It doesn't always have to be pheasant. I don't know if that's.
Oh, you mean the knotted legs? Or?
Yeah. Because isn't it generally pheasant?
Almost always is pheasant, but you can do that with turkey, and that's a good one. Let's mark that down, because we always have these doggone turkey quills that are left over. Okay, knotted legs. Other materials than pheasant. And we'll just have to dig into the all right. Let me get back to my fly. We're getting a pretty good list here, and because we need to have enough for tomorrow, as well as we're going to do the same thing on New Year's Eve. So
not New Year's Eve, is it? Because New Year's Eve would be Saturday night, wouldn't it?
Okay, well then it'd be the Friday before New Year's Eve.
I don't know. Let me check my calendar. I think
that could be. I haven't been keeping track of it too well. I've been too busy working on some other things that, well, you all, if you've tuned into Facebook, you've seen that we've been working on a video for the last couple of days for Fly Fishery International Fly of the Month.
New Year's Eve is Saturday. Ooh, that's going to be a big celebration. People could.
Yeah, they'll have a Saturday, and wow, that'll be crazy. Oh, no, right back over those trimmed ends.
No, I can't remember whether I glued this or not. I guess I'd have to ask. If we were on Zoom, I could ask Zoom, like people watching on Zoom, but we don't. So I'll just glue it a second time.
Which you notice that I'm strengthening the post on this parachute. I wrap up the post area and it's still tilted forward. I'll pull it up straight, pull straight from the top of that post down, and anchor it just like a tent rope.
You have any more over there for me?
I will in a minute here, just a sec. I've been doing too much writing on the list and not enough work. You're keeping me hustling here, dear.
We do hair wing salmon flies, and some of that is substitution, isn't it?
Of
tons,
yes.
Of hair for the more exotic feathers.
Yep.
I don't know if maybe that's something we want to save for New Year's Eve, a week from Friday.
Yeah, but let me write it down. Hair subs.
Because I've only tied just a few actually Atlantic salmon flies, but I've tied more hair wing Atlantic salmon flies. I guess.
Yeah, Atlantic or steelhead flies too. You probably could say that. So
yeah, that's true.
But the reason we don't tie a whole heck of a lot of salmon flies, not that we don't know how to tie them, we're actually pretty darn good at it. But the fact of the matter is, it's really difficult to make any money tying salmon flies. And quite frankly, it's why are we in the business? Keyword in that last sentence was business. It's called making money. So unfortunately, it takes too long to tie a salmon fly for the amount of money you can charge for
I
it.
don't know how much money we're making anymore, though.
Oh, we're
not
we're
like
pretty
when,
well retired and
Yeah.
giving things away, basically.
I mean, we wouldn't be turning customers away if we were into making tons of money. Well, even when we were tying commercially, we weren't making tons of money.
No, if you go into the fly tying business to become rich, and you believe that that's an option, I have a bridge for sale in New York that I will sell you for a good price. In other words, you're not going to get rich tying flies.
But we were lucky. We took an early out from corporate America, so we were able to do it. It was just,
Yeah, if you can't come into a commercial tying business with a 401k from somewhere else, you're really kind of in trouble.
we knew lots of guys who were working as guides and tying and stuff. That, I mean, you just kind of wonder
Well, it's
how
a
they
fun
make
thing
it.
to do when you're a young person. And I cannot tell you how many times I saw this as a working guide also. I was a working guide after being a corporate America person and having a 401k. Can't tell you how many guides that I guided with. And at the end of 10 years, they still had a boat and a pickup, and that was it. And they're headed into the years past 50 when it starts to get more difficult rowing customers down the river. And well, anyway, it's not always a thing with a great retirement plan. But there are people that do really well at it, and there's several people that know how to market themselves. And in today's digital world, there's more marketing opportunities than there used to be when we were in the business full time in the 90s. That was kind of on the cusp of the digital age, and email was a gee whiz kind of a thing we had back then, and now it's so commonplace that email is kind of old hat, and everybody does a thing called text messaging, which I've refused to join that generation. And
I just don't get
frustrates
you.
yep,
Text messaging is just so cool.
Yeah, I know. Gretchen keeps telling me that, but it's so cool. If she does it, I don't have to, I guess.
Oh, that reminds me. Your drugs are ready. They message me because he won't let them text message him. So then I have to remember
text message.
Pass the message on.
Have to go pick up my prescription medicines at the drugstore. It used to be you go to the drugstore, you hand them your prescription, and they would give you. They say, "Oh, they're right over here in this box," and they count them out and give them to you. And now they have to tell you to come back in 3 or 4 days when they get through having some other company somewhere else, maybe even in another part of on another side of the ocean, finish the package the drugs and get them to you. Well, this is interesting. I'm down to 3 to finish this dozen, Gretchen, and I think we probably ought to wrap it up with
okay.
With the
it's
live
probably getting
stream
pretty boring now.
After these 3, I'm going to finish one more, and we'll just go ahead and wrap the live stream up.
Okay. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, I'd like to have a dozen 16s at least on, because we had that box was empty.
Yeah, it's been pretty empty. Well, I'm dragging another feather out here. It's
The 18,
I'll do a couple more before we bag it today. What do you say?
yeah, the 18s are empty too. So one of these days we're going to do some 18s.
Well, I guess I'm going to be tying small stuff for a bit.
Yeah.
Here I've got one that's a lot of black in this feather, but I've got some grizzly tips out here. So I am going to go ahead. I'll use that section with the grizzly tips because I can probably throw away most of the black. Yeah, and I'll be able to get a tail for this 16 out of that. And the black didn't cause us a problem. All right, get off over the trash bin and clean out the waste. You notice that I put the hair into the stacker backwards. And why is that? Well, it's because the other end is unstacked and it's really hard to line all those unstacked ends up. But if you go with the part that you cut off the hide, they're already lined up. So you back them in and you take them out forwards. If that makes any sense. If it doesn't, well, then that's keep doing it the way you do. But now the tips are all evened up. And of course, you can see the ends that were all even when I cut them off the hide are no longer even. That's what a hair stacker does, is straighten all that stuff out. And let's get in here and put that in place. I'll get my measurement tool. That looks pretty good. I'll unwrap those wraps a little bit. Come out here and start binding that down. Thread dam in front of the wing. Flip things over, take a couple of turns around the wing post itself, working my way towards the upper part of the post. Now I need to grip, I pulled all those off, trying to show you what I'm doing. And now I'm at the top of the post area. I'm going to pull on the wing so it doesn't slip off. And then I'm going to pull my rope all the way from the top of that post down and anchor it just like you do a tent rope. Go the other way, anchor it in front. Make a couple of turns around and I'll just go ahead and put a whip finish on, and Gretchen knows what to do with it from there. Well, two more, Gretchen, and we'll hang it up. What do you say?
Okay.
It's getting toward. Oh, we still got a little while before lunch. So.
Yeah. Maybe that cold walk with Carly made you hungry this morning.
Yeah, it was a really cold one. Thank God there wasn't much wind. Now we're back to this feather that's got all this black in it.
Oops.
Well, we're going to
twisted that.
I can still use the other side of that feather, even though it's got the black in it. I'll tear that away and throw that away. We'll pull the fibers out because the very ends is going to have some pretty good grizzly tips, I think.
I'm cranking this around at the tail. I kind of pulled over to the side, so I have
that
to
one away.
Crank it back so it's on the top. We don't want more on the back side. That looks better. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but I had the fibers were kind of hanging out on the back side there, which is the side towards the camera for you. And I twisted them back on top.
Oh.
So it was me that did it because it was the bare hook.
Oh, right.
So I can't blame Al for that one.
Getting ready for a wing. And I'll just move straight over to the waste bin because you already know what a bunch of fuzzy hair looks like that just got cut off the hide. One of the things I didn't show you, but here it has not been stacked yet. And I'll often take and pull these very longest ones out and lay them in. They just seem to stack a little bit better that way. Yet it seems like hair fibers like to be next to their buddies. And if they're next to their buddies, they don't stack as good. But if you break them loose from their buddies, then they seem to stack better. Now I know that probably is a bad analogy, but it's the one I've got in my bag of tricks for right now. But that does seem to make them stack better. I don't know why, but it seems to. And we'll get the fibers out, pointing in the direction that we want them to go.
Kind of have to watch your feathers as you tie. This brown that I've got for hackle, it seems to me, I'm going to measure it, but it seems to me it's gotten a little too small. Sometimes even on the big long saddles, as you work your way towards the tip of the hair of the saddle or of the, yeah, this brown is actually turned into an 18 now, but I'm going to go ahead and use it because the grizzly is a good 16, so it will look fine, but this is probably the last 16 I'll tie with it. It just is getting a little, I need to get rid of some of that. Getting a little small for 16. But I don't think you can tell when you mix it with the 16 grizzly. You can kind of watch this, and I don't know if you can see the difference.
Okay, Gretchen, I got one more and then we'll stop the live stream.
Okay.
So it's
this last, after I tie the hackle off on the post, I usually take a couple of wraps and try to get below all that hackle to keep it kind of up where we want it to be. And then I do my whip finish with my half hitch tool.
that measured, the tail measured for length. Set it down on the side of the hook nearest me and then you roll it up on top. Trim the waist. Advance forward to about the 1/3 position on the hook. Get us a small bundle of that calf tail out. And we'll go get rid of the waist over the bin. I'm in a slightly different part of the hide where I cut this one from the last
Can
one.
you hand me some more?
Yeah, here you go. I want you to notice that I've got some really extra long fibers in there, so I'm going to do a couple of hand stacks on that. Get those all more or less lined up before I try to run them through the stacker. It just kind of helps a little bit.
Yeah, put this in my 18
Of
file.
course, doing that, I had to then trim the butt ends a little bit because they were very uneven after I'd done a hand stack.
Now that's a better size hackle.
No, you went to the proper size, huh?
Yeah, yeah, this one will work.
I'll roll that wing up on top. Bind it, and I'll come back forward and get ready to trim the waist. Unwrap, and then wrap back over the trimmed ends. One of the things that I like to do too, and I want you to notice that I didn't wrap all the way to the end of the shank. That gives Gretchen some space in which to add the brown hackle if we decide to. And if it's a fly that doesn't have brown hackle, if it's another kind of parachute that just has a grizzly tail, then you just go ahead and add some thread turns in there to cover that space.
Because remember, we want the last turn over the hackle to be on bare, on a tail to be on bare shank, because we don't want the cliff to cause that tail to point downward. I
Point
guess
downward,
yeah.
like we talked about earlier.
So
okay, well, this is to be the last one, Gretch. I'll just set that over there. And I'm going to go ahead and do a closeout.
okay, well, I've got
just
4 to finish.
Another day at the Vice, and thank you for joining us. Remember, tomorrow night we have a special event every Friday night, and we'll be the featured tires tomorrow night and in a week from tomorrow night. But for now, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us.